Lamar Jackson is the most dominant weapon in football right now, and to think he was almost converted
Yeah.
at in high school and in college and in the pros. Multiple times he was almost converted away from quarterback, and it's like, no, he's the most dominant weapon in football. Hey guys, welcome to Sports Den, the podcast. We are going to do something a little bit different over the next few weeks. We're going to do what we're going to call sports nests because they're little mini pods that we're going to do over the holiday season. And you might start seeing a few of these pop up where when we have topics that maybe just wouldn't fit with our normal Friday shows, maybe we'll do a sports nest in the middle of the week and upload those. So keep your eyes out for those. Tonight, it's just Ben and I, and we've got a pretty cool show lined out for you, I hope. So, Ben, you want to intro it?
Yeah, so this is a thing that we kind of been talking about. We have been kind of wanting to do this when you kind of think about stuff, but then we had a conversation off air in our own little group that kind of inspired me. I really want to talk about this. I think this can be a really fun discussion. So what we're going to talk about is records and fantastic, amazing events that you just see in sports that you remember your entire life of what everything else was going on in that game. You remember the exact play it happened, or you just remember that, and it's a thing that you tell your kids about, that I saw it live. I was there for this moment. And just general other stuff that you've seen on TV. So really cool events and stuff like that. So we're going to look at some of the coolest records that we think are never going to get touched, or other records that we think are awesome because every year someone can one-up them every single year. The limit does not exist as to what that number can be. So we're going to kind of jump into that. I think for me personally, my favorite record in all of sports is, I love it because it's like, it's got one name. And everyone, if you know anything about sports and someone mentions the streak, you should know what they're talking about. If you don't know what they're talking about, get an education. Because the streak, I think, I really deep down, I don't see why it's unbreakable, because it's a simple thing, but history has shown us that it's unbreakable. The streak I'm referring to is Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak. Joe DiMaggio got a hit in 56 straight games. To just put this in perspective, the next closest is 45, and that was done in 1896 and 1897. So over the course of 2 years, in the 1800s.
That's the next, and that's a dead ball era too. That's not live ball era.
I think it was live ball in the 96s. I think. I don't remember when the exact thing switched. Okay. But that was, I think, some of those Cobb years and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the next closest one who's anywhere near is Pete Rose. And Pete Rose was 44. So Pete Rose was 12 games short. And that's been the closest thing that we can call the modern era. Was 44 games.
Yep.
The closest, and really, even now, I guess it's still not even the modern era anymore. Jimmy Rollins had 38 games through a combined the 05 and 06 season, and Chase Utley had 35 games.
I remember when Utley was on that streak, and everyone was like going gaga over that.
Well, I remember when Utley goes on. I think Utley went on one, and then I can't remember who it was for the Rockies who got to like 18 once, and people are going crazy. And then one of the other guy goes, this is nothing yet. Like this, we don't. You can't talk about the record because we're actually nowhere close to the record. The thing is, no one gets close.
Yeah, and here's the reason no one gets close. We can talk about supreme acts of athleticism and coordination by pro athletes. And I still think the most difficult thing that people do on a regular basis is hit a major league fastball.
Well, just hitting a baseball there. It's the thing I love about baseball. I think I saw this as a meme a little bit ago. As a single person, it was a thing to kind of give you confidence of take your shot. If you're a single person and you're listening, you know what? Take your shot, because if you miss, all you have to do is get a yes 1 out of 3 times, and you can go to the Hall of Fame, because it means you're batting 300, and batting 300 gets you to the Hall of Fame. 30% success rate can get you to the Hall of Fame. It's crazy when you just think about that. Like 1/3 of the time, 30.3% can get you there. So it gets to a point, and we're going to get to this a little bit later when some of the things that kind of started this. You have to get things of desperate, of find stuff of, well, that game didn't count because he didn't play it. They gave him a day off, or that game didn't count. That didn't count as not getting a hit because he only got 1 at bat. Yeah. Because he pinch hit. Like, there's people try to make excuses of why hit streaks are still going because no one can come close. The streak, it's this crazy concept of a thing.
It's like, you know what? I'm not going to do that comparison because it'll come later in the pod, but I'll come back to this later in the pod when we get to something like that.
But yeah, it's just amazing. And the other thing, the one thing that kind of gets me, is it, and this is kind of reference to the next one that I was really wanting to talk about. Playing a baseball video game at a legitimate difficulty, so not, easy. No. But playing the baseball video, I've come close. I think I've gotten, like, a few years ago, I think I got to 55. So it's capable of doing it in a video game.
It's theoretically possible.
Again, because it's just one of those things of you see guys getting on base and getting hits, and you feel like guys get hits every game, but they don't. The next one that I was going to go through, and I'm happy to get one on.
How about we switch off?
You switch it. Yeah, go for it.
So, I want to go with one that happened last night.
Okay.
Lamar Jackson broke Michael Vick's record.
Yes, that was crazy.
I mean, like, it's been well documented, my love of Lamar Jackson, but it's been insane. And the fact that he's throwing for it's like 215 a game. It's not nothing either. Lamar Jackson is the most dominant weapon in football right now, and and to think he was almost converted in high school and in college and in the pros. Multiple times he was almost converted away from quarterback, and it's like, no, he's the most dominant weapon in football. I loved watching Michael Vick. It was one of my favorite things as a child growing up, especially after I lost my team. RIP Oilers. And so, but to see Lamar do this is one of the most entertaining things in all sports.
Yeah, it's awesome to think. Now, this is one when I was referencing ones that I think we're about to get another. This is going to be a one-upman.
Yeah. There's no way this stands 3 years tops.
Like I said, I'm not saying it's going to go down next year, but I think this is going to be the new thing that someone's going to beat it. Someone's going to beat it, because I think we're seeing that their mobile quarterback could become a thing again. It will be interesting just to see the way rules work, especially if you can't hit mobile quarterbacks, which there are times you can hit mobile quarterbacks and other times you can't hit mobile quarterbacks. So it will be interesting to see the way the rules
with it, I mean, with the
continue.
new rules, Ryan Tannehill looks like a decent quarterback. So
Yeah. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, it's crazy to kind of see of he really is. Now there was an actual guy that went by the name Slash because he really didn't have a
hmm
position, and Cordell Stewart. But this guy
hmm
really is a true dual threat quarterback, and we think we see dual threats before. But I think that was one of the coolest things about the record, because I don't believe there's really no one close. I don't remember how many yards RG3 had and Newton had, but I don't think they were super close to Vic.
I don't think
Um,
either one of them. I don't even think either one of them was top 4 seasons because
but Steve
you
Young had
had
some sneaky years in there.
yeah
But yeah, so just kind of interesting to look at that. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward, like I said, if it does, because I can easily see this one becoming one that falls, one
yeah.
that falls regularly.
hmm
Um, this
I
kind of
think
reminds me of what is the early 2000s when Sean Alexander set the touchdown record for running backs, and
yeah.
then 2 years later, LT beat it.
hmm
And we kind of gotten a feeling that this was just going to be one of those records that's just going to fall, 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 fall. It didn't, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was a cool
I
one.
think passing touchdowns will eventually be that way.
Oh, passing touchdowns. I mean, yeah, for sure, for sure. One that I think is not going to fall. I guess the four that I really have, I feel like are untouchable.
Yeah.
Um, but another one I look at, and you know what, I wrote down specifically Gretzky's point streak, but I think I'm going to extend that to like all of Gretzky's records.
For real.
For point streak is the best example. So Gretzky got a point, so either an assist or a goal. For those of you who aren't hockey fans, either an assist or a goal in 51 straight games.
For
Mario
those of you who
Lemieux,
aren't hockey fans, that's just insane.
yes, that's insane. Mario Lemieux is number 2 with 46 straight games. But here's an interesting thing about Gretzky. When you actually realize, if you're going to compare who is the greatest person in their sport of all time, Gretzky is by far greater than everyone at hockey, than Michael Jordan is at basketball, than Tom Brady is, or anyone you want to name as the GOAT in football. Gretzky is better than them at being better at hockey.
There has never been someone with a stranglehold on the
It's well, I said
greatest conversation
this point streak.
like
4 of the top 10 point streaks are owned by Gretzky.
yeah.
So not only is he number 1, he's got 3 more in the top 10. The closest someone's gotten in the modern game is Patrick Kane with 26. So like not even half. And I'll say this, like I think that I paused this, so as an Avalanche fan, for me, I believe the Avalanche have one of, if not the best players currently in hockey. I think Nathan MacKinnon is the best hockey player alive today. And I look and watch him play, and there are times I look at him and say, man, maybe this guy could be like Gretzky. And then I pause and think, and it's no, he probably really can't be like Gretzky. It's insane seeing that being able to be the one. Only I was able to see him a little bit towards the end of his career, but still that kind of a thing. And I think that's just kind of an absolute greatness. There's a reason why he's actually known as the great one.
Yeah, like
people, yeah, like you say, people throw the GOAT name around with Tom Brady. Okay, sure, but everyone's some kind of laugh. Like, no, he is unquestioned. There are a few people that want to give it to Lemieux, but even then, you just kind of look at them and they're like, all right, yeah, sure.
they're like the random person that wants to be like, no, Bill Russell was the best basketball player of all time.
And even then, eras make that different. But yeah, but like there's no question in Gretzky. And just kind of looking at everything he did, it's everything great he did.
Yeah.
The only you know what, the closest comparison I'll give him is probably Jerry Rice.
to
Now,
how
Jerry Rice's records, I think, will fall because of what the passing game is doing now. Eventually.
but to me, Randy Moss is the second best receiver of all time.
And but
to
it's
me,
not even close.
But like the difference between Jerry Rice to Randy Moss is like the difference between Randy Moss to like a Michael Irving.
I'd even go a step further. The difference between Jerry Rice and Randy Moss is the difference between Randy Moss and me. I'm a 5'6" white guy.
But okay, hey, I think Brian takes offense of that on behalf of Cole Beasley. But no, for real. It's Jerry Rice is so much better at being a wide receiver than everyone else who's been a wide receiver.
Yeah, like he's there. That's the closest thing. And even him, even as great as Jerry Rice is, Gretzky was that much better at being a hockey player.
Yeah, but then, I agree. I agree completely.
Go ahead.
My second record I was thinking about is my second record I was thinking about is actually more of just an accomplishment that was my favorite sports accomplishment I remember witnessing. Actually happened earlier. I think the 15th anniversary of this was earlier this week. So I remember young 11-year-old Jonathan waking up early in the morning to watch Rockets games because we lived for those of you who don't know, I lived overseas as a child, and so basketball games came on like in the wee hours of the morning, and I was an 11-year-old kid, and I woke up because I loved basketball so much. At this point, I woke up to watch a random Spurs Rockets game in the middle of nowhere at like 3 a.m. And the Spurs are kicking the Rockets' butts all game. Yao has not been able to do squat, and he's in foul trouble. Tim Duncan's been tearing it up, and it looks bad. I think we're down 8 with 30-something seconds left.
Oh, okay.
And Tracy McGrady does probably the most impressive single minute of sports I have ever seen. He scores 13 points in 35 seconds. And he steals the ball, hits that three with like a second and a half left, and the way he pumps his fist is so much better. Like, in my mind, that was like, I don't think a sports moment in my young life being a fan compared to that until the Astros won a World Series. Like, that was the best moment of sports in my life until the Astros won a World Series.
Yeah. No, I remember seeing some of this. I remember seeing the videos of that. I think that was back when ESPN played, SportsCenter was a sports show that showed highlights. It actually showed sports. And I think I remember seeing that. Like, I watched it each time, not believing that happened. And I was just sitting there like, okay, how did this happen?
Also, to this day, by the way, I've seen a lot of NBA players live. I live right outside of I live 45 minutes outside of the FedEx Forum, and so I've seen a lot of NBA players live. To this moment, the most impressive NBA player I've ever seen in terms of talent to have ever played was Tracy McGrady during the 2008 season.
Yeah.
During the 2007 streak, where the Rockets went on that huge win streak.
Mm-hmm. And then, so I guess going on from that one, my next one that goes to of events that I think this is definitely one we will never see again, because the games, just sports in general, does not allude to this. Is Cal Ripken's record at the Ironman. 2,000 620 or 32 games. Like that's insane. Oh, and the record he beat, the guy whose record he beat was on Murderer's Row for the Yankees. Like Lou Gehrig was the guy he beat. The guy didn't play with a helmet. That's how long that record stood. And Ripken obliterated it. It wasn't like one of those moments where Ripken like beat it and he goes, "Okay, cool guys, I beat it. Now I'm going to take a break." No, he beat it and then just kept going. Like, it's insane to imagine. And that'll never be touched, especially with forced days off. I remember as a Rockies fan the number of times of hearing cases of Nolan Arenado being angry because he was forced to sit. Mm-hmm. Because the coach was saying, no, this is in your best interest. It's in the team's best interest that you not play because we need you healthy going forward. There were games that Ripken didn't start. Now, that wasn't a start streak. There were games that he went in and got put in later on. But it's just such a unbelievable stat of, I don't know if there was a guy that played even last year in every game.
Yeah, I'm trying to find
just in last year alone who played, not started, but played in every game, and I don't think there was. If you do see, are you checking that?
I'm trying to look right now. I'm just trying to compare that to even what it is in other sports. Like, so
Favre
looks okay because Favre's 297, but Phillip Rivers was at 220 at one point.
Yeah.
That starts total.
Yeah.
At any position.
Eli was up there. Eli
was up there until they pulled that Geno Smith crap.
That's right. Yeah. You know what? So that's a kind of a big one. And the other thing to say within those numbers is, remember.
I mean, the comparable one is AC Green in the NBA. He started 1,192 games, which, by the way,
straight games.
He didn't start all of them, but he played in 1,192 straight games. The number 2 guy is Randy Smith with 906.
That's close. That's
and that will never be broken with the way that.
What year? What time? Like, what was that? I don't even recognize that name, honestly.
AC Green.
Yeah.
AC Green, I think he ended that streak in 1997. He was on the Lakers and the Suns during when they were really good in the mid 90s and late 80s. I think he made an all-star team. He was part of the Showtime Lakers. He was a forward.
The name somewhat sounds familiar, but I wouldn't know anything. But yeah, no,
that's because he currently shares our profession. He's currently a minister. And then the current here's the crazy thing about this is why I know the Iron Man streak will never be broken in the NBA. Do you want to guess what the current long is?
62.
No, you're way low, but
way low.
Yeah, you're way.
With the day of load management, is it okay? Is it some guy that's like a third guy on a bench?
No, it's a guy who's I don't think he's a starter now, but he has been a starter the last several years. But he plays for a middle he plays for a middling playoff team. And he is kind of one of those tough grit players.
I'm not sure.
Joe Ingles.
Yeah.
At 329.
No, that makes with 329.
329, which is a lot. Yeah. But there's no way he's catching AC Green.
No,
you're talking 9 years.
Yeah.
It's like 9 years of play, and Joe Ingles is like 32 or 33. Yeah. It's just not happening.
It's crazy, and you look at stuff. I mean, It blows my mind. But yeah, do you have another one?
So I'll jump to the one that is the one that kind of started all this. It's Wilt's 100-point game.
Yes.
The reason we had this discussion is because we had there was a rumor that certain Rockets players have a game circled late in the calendar year where if they can't improve their playoff position, they want James to go for Wilt's record, which is not going to happen because the Rockets management will not let that happen. I can tell you that. Because we've already seen where James Harden has been 1 point shy of his career high, but they were up by 30 in the third quarter when the third quarter ended, and they were like, "You're not playing. Sorry." Tough. So we've already seen that this game. Now, with that being said, James Harden is doing unbelievable things in basketball. It's the only thing even close to Wilt's season that year where he averaged 50 and scored 100 points in one game. Harden is currently averaging about 38.9 points. It's almost 39 points. And then over the last 10 games, he's been averaging 40.
So the thing that got me in this, or you go ahead and continue because you're going more specific.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. I do not think James will probably threaten Kobe's 82 at some point this year. He'll probably, I think James will have a 70-point game this year because, so here's the thing. There's a few things that have got to happen for you to get to 70 points. Everyone who has got to 70 points has taken at least 15 free throws. James Harden is averaging about 13. His free throw attempts have gone way down over the last 10 games, but they were way up before that. So, I think he'll get a game where he gets 15 free throw attempts, and then for the modern era, outside of Wilt, it's pretty much you've got to make about 10 threes.
Yeah.
And James has made 10 threes already about 4 times this season.
Yeah. He's definitely capable of getting there.
And then you've just got to not get pulled in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I'll
go on to the thing that I was kind of talking about with it and this is part of my issue with a lot of stuff with James Harden is I actually believe he is that good. He is good enough. I'm not going to put money that he will, but if I find out, time travel and someone says, "Oh yeah, James Harden got to 100," I absolutely believe he is capable of getting to 100 in a game.
It feels like I feel like I should say I don't, but at the same time, I think a game could go to double overtime.
I'm saying he will. I just wouldn't be surprised.
I think it would have to be a double overtime game or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I found out he got to 100. The issue that I've got with this, and this goes back to some stuff that I've talked about, my issues with Harden in the past. As we talked about these other records, and I was just going to say the other one really quick that I was going to talk about was, the single season rushing record.
Yeah.
Records, the reason why we look at these records and see they're awesome, records are hallowed. They are these amazing things that superheroes get. But at no point was it, I'm going for broke, I'm going for a record. Ripken was just able to that's what Ripken got the record and kept going because he could. It wasn't a drive to beat this record. It's a drive to play and win games. As we look at we mentioned the passing record. Does Drew Brees set up in the beginning, I'm going to break the passing record this year? No, that's not what he sets up to do. Mm-hmm. That's not what Manning sets up to do. That's not what Manning set up to do. It was, I'm going to go out and play and win games. Doing these good things that get us records can help us win games. But the goal is not to get. Now, there's little moments when you suddenly start realizing that you're getting close. I remember, individual events. I remember Charlie Blackmon a couple years ago was, I think, a double or a triple. I know there's a listener who will yell at me for forgetting what it was. Shy of the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a game that was pretty much in hand. And his teammates got mad at him for stopping it first.
Yeah.
Safe
I remember that.
And his teammates were literally like, "Come on, man! What is wrong with you? You got to push it. You could have made it." Because they want these things they want these records. And the cycle is kind of one of those things like, no, push it, go for the broke, make the play.
Yeah.
But you don't set up from the beginning of the game of, I'm going to go for the cycle today.
Yeah.
When I start hearing stuff of, we're going to set a game to let James go for 100, because here's my thing. If the rest of the team decides that James Harden should get to 100, I guarantee you James Harden will get to 100. Because if the rest of the team says, we're not going to take shots, all that matters is you set yourself up for shots and take them, James Harden will get to 100. Absolutely, easily. He'll get to 115. And it'll become the record, and it'll be that'll go down in the record books as a performance. But it will cheapen the record. It makes the record. It doesn't mean it's going with the back to the baseball example of it's bunting to break up a no-hitter. It's playing these things, and yes, I know we talk about. I'm a little more on the unwritten rules of sports than others, but it's cheap, it's dirty, it's tainted. Or going through a guy for a hit streak, or a guy trying to set the Triple Crown in baseball, and he needs one more hit in the end of the game at the end of the season, and he bunts to get that hit. Again, you bunt for a single earlier in the season, I've got no problem with that. But bunting to break that record, there's something cheap and dirty about it. And planning to break a record and making a plan in place to go for a record, I don't know, to me it makes it dirty and cheap. It cheapens these amazing things that we see.
My only argument about that is when the games are already meaningless. Like, so for instance, that late bunting to get the Triple Crown or whatever, if a pennant's already locked up, go for it. I don't care. If this game already has no standing on your playoff seeding, whatever. Like, that's my only thing. I know it's a time-honored tradition within the NBA to do crazy stuff when the games don't matter. When the games don't matter at the end of the season, that's when you have Larry Bird shoots a whole game with his left hand. That's when you have Michael Jordan shooting free throws with his eyes closed.
And those are
because
crazy,
the games didn't,
fun moments.
Because the games didn't mean anything.
You're not trying to make history.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that comes down to is forever he would be known in that situation as the guy that scored 110. History won't recognize, your kids won't recognize, it was 110 because no one else on his team was willing to take a shot or took a shot the entire game. He scored 110 because the game plan was whatever, win, lose, whatever the score, doesn't matter. Harden gets over 100. And
to be fair, it looks pretty close that was the game plan with Wilt's 100 points. I mean, he shot.
They needed those points.
They needed the points, and that's my thing from going in it from the beginning. It looks like the game plan was just get Wilt as many shots as possible, which there's a difference between get as many shots as possible and go for 100 points.
Yeah. And again,
I get that.
My other caveat on that is if at any point in the season Harden's sitting there at 80 with 7 minutes to go in the game,
dude, chuck it.
Release the hounds. Go for broke. Go for 100.
And I expect the other team to triple team him at that point, by the way.
Like, that's.
Yeah. I expect the other team to triple team him at that point. But
yeah. Again, like I said, that's not the problem. The problem when I'm hearing the story of we've got a game set where we're going to let him go for it. No, you can't plan on it. You've got to wait for it to happen. Again, like I said,
yeah, and
yes, the game plan for Wilt, what may have been, our game plan is to let Wilt win this game because it's Wilt. Let him score. The plan was not, hey, let's get you to 100. But that being said, he's sitting there at 80, and you realize a cool round number like 100 is attainable.
Yeah.
All right, let's go for 100. So that's kind of cool there. But like I said, it's stuff like that really kind of gets it. Of other little quick things that I just wanted to mention there is like Nolan Ryan and the number of perfect games. He had just amazing things of just sitting there in awe.
If Cy Young didn't exist, Nolan Ryan would be talked about in that Jerry Rice discussion we had earlier.
I still put Nolan for the impact he had, and
it's just the Cy Young just doesn't feel like Cy Young is so far back he almost feels like George Washington or like it almost feels like I'm talking about like Daniel Boone that rode a 100-foot tall panther or something.
Yeah.
And so I almost don't know how to deal with some people that early.
It's yes, he played in the live ball era, but
it was still way back there. I don't know how to process that.
It's still a different game. No, mm-hmm. Nolan Ryan just gripped it and ripped it. And as an old guy, batters were scared to death to face Nolan Ryan.
I think one thing that was I don't know how they did this. They had to have done some real in-depth video scrubbing to figure it out. But they're talking about 40-something-year-old Nolan Ryan, and the only pitcher that is coming close to the same spin rates and velocities that they are clocking him in this is Justin Verlander. And Justin Verlander's not even close.
He's not close. And the other thing another thing about Nolan. We weren't really going to talk about greatest players, but mm-hmm. I've got Nolan Ryan as the greatest pitcher, if not the greatest baseball player. And part of it, like I said, it's that intimidation factor of the only other person that comes close for intimidation was Randy Johnson. Where you as a batter, you weren't afraid you were going to get struck out.
You were afraid your head was going to leave your shoulders.
You were just not even you were just afraid. There was terror in your soul. Like people go up against Verlander, they're afraid they're going to get struck out and look like a fool. They're afraid for something specific. Nolan Ryan was a boogeyman. You didn't know what you were afraid of, but you were terrified. And that's just what you did when you went up there. And that continued till he was old. So that was kind of a perfect game thing is just impressive. We asked, you were talking about the greatest thing that you've seen live. That was another one you want to talk about. The greatest personal achievement of anyone that you saw live. You wanted to mention that.
Well, before we go to Nolan Ryan, or before we leave Nolan Ryan, I just want to clarify. Nolan Ryan pitched his first NFL game.
Or baseball game.
Baseball game, MLB game. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead to stuff I've seen live. Sorry.
Oh.
Anyway, pitched his first MLB game, 1966, 4 years before my dad was born. Nolan Ryan's last baseball game that he pitched was in 1993, after I was born.
Yeah.
The entirety of my dad's life until he had children, Nolan Ryan was pitching.
and was arguably the best pitcher every single year he played.
Yes.
Into the 90s.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's
I don't know how to stress that enough.
No, like he's up there. But yeah, so greatest thing that you've seen?
Greatest things I've seen live. So I'm gonna actually go.
Or performances you've seen live, I guess. That's probably the best way to look at it.
Performances I've seen live. I saw, and this is gonna sound weird.
Mine's gonna be weird too.
Really weird. I went to, because I've been pretty critical of one of the players in this group, but when I was 8 or 9, I went to my first NBA game. It's really what made me fall in love with really being a Rockets fan, because number one, I got to see how huge Yao Ming is. Like that man is massive. And imagine 8 or 9-year-old me seeing how massive Yao Ming is. And go to a Rockets game, and it was the Rockets versus the Philadelphia 76ers. And T-Mac and AI both scored 30. And it ended with like, in the last minute, this Rockets bench player that barely ever played ever, Luther Head. I still remember his name, Luther Head, and he was a no factor on anything for most of his career. But this dude hit like 2 threes back to back to finally blow it open there at the end for a Rockets win. And it's just like, that's one of my biggest sports memories. That was my introduction to, I love this game.
For me, as far as performances go, I think part of the performances, what make them really hit, is when they're also personal.
Yeah.
So my senior year of college, GCU was playing Louisville. We lost this game. We played Louisville the year before at Louisville and got killed. And this Louisville decided was coming to GCU Arena. That for the full thing, you've got to set it up. As students, we decided to camp out in the quad for 2 nights before the game. We had tickets already. To this day, there's no logical explanation of why we camped out. But we did. I could literally see my bed.
There's a logical explanation.
My bedroom window?
You were going to college.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, the news comes out and asked us about it, and we had no answer for. So why are you doing this?
There's nothing better to do.
I could literally see my bedroom window, and it was freezing. Yes, people don't think it gets cold in Arizona, but I'm going to tell you right now, 42 degrees in Arizona.
Arizona gets cold.
It's really cold. Like, some of the coldest I've been, even growing up in Colorado, has been 42 degrees in Arizona. But going through, so we had that, we were riding off of that high. And then we were playing Louisville, and as a student section, and fans, we were just intense. Super loud the entire game. So the atmosphere was insane. But our point guard went off. He just played like a man possessed. I think he scored 42 points in that game, including a buzzer beater at half to put us up at half against Louisville. We ended up losing, I think, by 10 or 12, but he just went off and he just couldn't be denied. He played all but I think 3 minutes or 4 minutes in the game. That's in college. Like, that doesn't typically happen either. So he just went insane. Oh, and our second best player wasn't playing that game either. So he just literally put everything on his shoulders and played. And we finished the game just kind of exhausted and tired, but still just excited. We showed up, we performed. And then what really got me was after the game, they were interviewing Pitino. And he was pointing out that he said there's, two things that he really, really wanted to say. He said in all of his years of coaching basketball, he has never seen a guard performance like that. And it was one of those ones that, again, we didn't win the game, we lost, but it was just it was one of those moments at the end, you felt like you saw something special. And then to get a guy like Pitino say, no, you just saw something special. It was amazing. And the other thing he said after that was that our student section was the best student section he had ever witnessed in all of college basketball.
That GCU student section has been really great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was fun. It was a great experience for that. If you ever get a chance to check out a game at GCU, you should.
I need to come visit you, and we'll go to a game or something.
Come visit. We'll go to a game.
All right.
But yeah, so that was one of those ones that just really kind of got me as amazing performance of I just saw something.
And I think that's a great note to leave it on tonight.
Yes.
So, with that being said, guys, like us, share, subscribe, all that goodness. We would love for you to follow our Facebook page, SportsDen the Podcast. And
check out fourthandlongdesigns.com.
And then ofsportsandmoresports.com.
Sportsandmoresports.com. And then another one we want to throw out to, again, we threw out to a little bit, Stadium Abstract. Really, really cool art for the discerning sports fan. It's not too scream in your face, but you know what? If you have a sports room, it's going to look great on your wall.
That is pretty cool.
If you don't have a sports room, it's still going to look great on your wall. Even if you're not a sports fan and you just like cool art. I don't know why you're listening to this podcast, but if you've got a friend that isn't a sports fan and just likes art, they'll like it. So check it all out, and we'll see you next time.